Don't sing if you want to live long. They have no use for your song. You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. You're dead and out of this world. That there, by Norma Tanega, is song You're Dead. It is the intro theme to one of my favorite comedies ever, What We Do in the Shadows. I absolutely love the show. It's about vampire roommates living on Staten Island. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. The last season just premiered. The show literally wrapped up last month, and we binged it all in like 3 to 4 weeks. Super accessible, super fun. We're going to be making some drinks inspired by What We Do in the Shadows. Coming right up. What separates this show, unfortunately for me, from a lot of other shows out there, is that there's not a whole lot you can do in the realm of especially drinks or food items or what have you when it comes to the world of the show, because all of the vampires will violently throw up if they have any human food or drink. They can pretty much only consume blood, except for the daywalkers or the energy vampires, but they don't really get brought up too much. And their eating habits definitely don't. So that kind of leaves us stranded here in Cocktail World. Whereas Schitt's Creek was kind of ripe. It had a few cocktails in there that we could make. It had some inspiration we have in there. I'm working on recipes for another show that we're watching. We're not even halfway done with that show, and I already have more cocktails from that show than than any of the ones from What We Do in the Shadows, all of which I had to essentially make up. So that sort of kind of leaves me in a situation where I need to create drinks inspired by the events, characters, and themes of the show. Thankfully, there are some ideas in there that I could pull from, and that's what we're gonna do. So, starting off with the Tom Collins Robinson. A Tom Collins is a classic gin drink originating from the late 1800s. I believe it came after the Tom Collins hoax and was named for it, but basically the idea was you'd go up to some random, you walk into the bar top's full, you go up to some random Joe there and you say, hey, do you know who Tom Collins is? He says, no. And you say, well, he sure seems to know about you because he's at the bar down the road and he's talking all sorts of shit about you. And then he would get up, go down there to see what Tom Collins is talking about, and you'd take his seat, basically, was the idea. Colin Robinson, on the other hand, is a character in What We Do in the Shadow. He's the energy vampire. He basically bores you out of your mind in order to feed on your mental energy.
Hi, Deb.
Energy vampires drain people's energy merely by talking to them.
Actual versus budget year to date? No thanks. You're going to be at that all day.
We either bore you with a long conversation.
Feeling better now. I was a little sick this weekend. Hey, Don. Don. I have to pee, too.
Or
hey,
we enrage you.
So the inspiration behind this drink is we're going to be doing a Tom Collins, that is ever so slightly off. It is just wrong enough to sound right, but just every step of the way, everyone who knows what a Tom Collins is will just get a little more annoyed at this recipe, is the idea. So we're going to start off with 2 ounces of vodka. Tom Collins would typically call for gin. Vodka is a neutral grain spirit. You're not going to get a whole lot of taste out of it. Whereas gin is kind of fun, kind of junipery. A lot of American gins are made with citruses. It's a fun-based spirit that I quite like toying around with, but we're just going to get rid of that for this because that would be a little too accurate for our friend Colin Robinson. Next, we're going to go with 1/2 ounce of simple syrup. There we are. We're also going to be stirring this in a Collins glass. I thought about messing around and changing the method of creation as well, but I feel like that would be too noticeably different and too in the wrong direction, sort of. It beats the whole idea of the subtlety that we're kind of going for, that angle that we're working for here. Next up, we're going to cut a lime in half. Tom Collins calls for a lemon, and it calls for, I believe, 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice. Who cares about measuring Do you even really need to do that? Measuring? No. Come on. There you go. Yeah, who cares about proportions and ratios and all that other stuff, okay? We're Colin Robinson. We've got some energy to be feeding on here. So now that all of that is in there, we're going to be adding some ice. I forgot to take my ice out of the fridge before we started, but that's all right. Instead of club soda, we're going to top this off with tonic water. Not only because tonic water isn't club soda, and therefore the drink is more incorrect due to its inclusion, but also because I used to know someone who every single time you had brought up tonic water or tonic water was used in a drink, he would go on this wild tangent about how tonic water and the origin of happy hour in India, because you drink it to cure malaria or what have you, and all the British sailors were down there drinking it with their gin. Every single time tonic water was brought up, he would go into that diatribe about the origin of happy hour and how it related to tonic water. And I felt like I was being drained by an energy vampire every time that happened, because I'd listened to that diatribe about 70 times over the course of our relationship. Give that a good stir, not a real good stir. Of course, that'd be a little too bougie for our friend Colin Robinson. Take our juiced lime half, just kind of slit it like that, so you can dress it on the side of the glass, and voila, a Tom Collins Robinson. Let's give it a taste. That tastes like lime juice and tonic water for sure. Thing over here is wanting to taste. So, Tom Collins Robinson. Definitely working with the base of a Tom Collins. We have created some sort of workplace horror, but I will say it's kind of tasty. I do enjoy it. It's the tonic water that really gets me, but even, because I typically don't like tonic water a whole lot, but even in this drink, I can tolerate it, and I think it does add a nice note there at the end. When it's going down and clinging to your esophagus. All right, on to the next drink.
Ah, there we are. Blue jeans. And my toothpick. My foolproof human disguise for whenever the shit hits the wind. Makes me completely unrecognizable.
That's right. Our next cocktail is going to be the Jackie Daytona, named for the alternate personality that Laszlo Cravensworth took in Season 2, Episode 6, On the Run. I believe it was Episode 6. Sign me on that. Basically, he realizes that his old landlord, Jim the Vampire, played by Mark Hamill, Jim the Vampire's old landlord, has caught up with him. He owes him so much debt he couldn't ever possibly hope to repay it. But because of this encounter, he flees to Pennsylvania. He assumes a new identity, takes over a bar. It's a delightful episode, the best episode, I think, of What We Do in the Shadows. But in order to really enjoy it, you kind of do need you need to know your characters well. You need to know who Laszlo is, and I think that's the beauty of that episode. So, we're going to get into a cocktail inspired by Jackie Daytona.
And I've not looked back since. I now go by the name of Daytona, Jackie Daytona. And I'll tell you something. Jackie Daytona's life, it ain't so bad. Not bad at all.
So, the Jackie Daytona, my kind of thought process here is we're going to need an all-American cocktail here. And my mind immediately goes to the old-fashioned. It's one of the oldest in the books. It's bourbon. Americans love our bourbon here. But I didn't quite want to do an old-fashioned. I do a lot of old-fashions. So I decided to take a spin on an improved whiskey cocktail for the Jackie Daytona. And I'm going to top it with some human alcohol beer, sort of following similar principles for my Johnny Silverhand recipe. The beer that we're going to be using is Yuengling traditional lager. This is a very good beer to use in this recipe because it actually comes from Pennsylvania, where Jackie Daytona's bar is located. So there's a nice connection there. Let's just get into it. An improved whiskey cocktail. We're going to start with a rinse of absinthe. Nowadays, you could probably do a spritz and have sort of the same effect, but basically the idea is you put maybe a 1/4 ounce of absinthe in your glass, and you just kind of swirl it around a bit. You make sure it coats every surface that you can, and typically at that point you just want to throw your absinthe out because you're not going to use it. That much absinthe, even a 1/4 ounce, is going to really overpower the drink. So you typically just dump this out in your sink. I am not a man who wastes absinthe, so. Oh, that's so good. All right, Jackie Daytona. Let's just get right into it. 2 ounces of bourbon. We got some Kentucky bourbon here. Excellent bottle. There they are. 2 ounces of bourbon. 1/4 ounce of simple syrup. How do you make simple syrup? It's easy. You just bring 1 cup of water to boil with 2 cups of sugar. Make sure you've made a solution. Let that sit for at least 20 minutes before you bottle it. And it's going to be basically shelf stable. You can keep that in your pantry. It'll be fine. Go next to add 1/2 ounce of maraschino liqueur. Very interesting flavors. Maraschino cherries are named for the stuff, although this doesn't taste quite like them. You can definitely see where it comes from. A very nice modifier liqueur, that maraschino stuff. 1/2 ounce of that, used in Sazeracs and improved whiskey cocktails across the world. 2 dashes of angostura bitters. You may be thinking, Drew, what are you doing? Improved whiskey cocktail typically calls for Peychaud's bitters. Well, Peychaud's essentially tastes like absinthe. It's got a lot of that yeast flavor in it. I don't like to double down on my flavors, so I decided some angostura would add some nice complications to this improved whiskey cocktail that we're working with here. Now we're going to add ice and stir. Once again, I've forgotten to get my ice out of the fridge. This won't happen again. Give that a nice stir. Whip out your bar key. Top off your human alcohol beer. Again, I recommend Yuengling because that's probably what Jackie Daytona himself was serving. Just fill that right up. There you go. Topped with beer. Garnish with a toothpick. Who could forget the Jackie Daytona? Let's give it a whirl. Ooh. Oh, fuck. That is really interesting. That is, wow, it's nothing like a Johnny Silverhand, even though it has the same principles. Oh, wow. How to describe that? It's almost like, it is that weedy graininess you get from the Yuengling right up top. You know, it's the first thing that hits your mouth. But then you get sort of like a sweet candy-ish taste, almost, from the maraschino coming in there. The simple makes it all very smooth. I didn't get a lot from the bourbon there, actually, and that might just be because I'm not tasting bourbon because it's not like up there at the top. But here, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go in again. Okay, yeah, definitely. It's subtle. It's subtle. The bourbon, which surprises me because you've got 2 ounces of the stuff in there. Wow. But yeah, you definitely do taste. If you're looking for it, you'll taste it. Yeah, this is surprisingly for as high a proof a cocktail as the Jackie Daytona is. It doesn't taste like it, and I could slug these down easily. This is wow. That's delicious. Okay, next cocktail. Next cocktail from What We Do in the Shadows. It's throat juice. Play the clip.
If If you are a vampire, then you will know who Richie Suck is. He is probably the greatest vampire rap artist of all time.
He's actually sucked Richie Suck, haven't you, Philip?
Fight in My Style or Sundown Funtown, and everyone knows throat juice. Gonna bust loose on the club roof, sucking throat juice like it's Grey Goose.
Throat Juice. Okay, so we don't know a whole lot about this. All we know is that Throat Juice is a single by Richie Suck, the greatest vampire rap artist alive, who was going to be there at the debut of Natcha's Bar, which I am forgetting the name of now, but not important for this story. Anyway, what we know is that it's probably going to be a vodka cocktail, because she calls out Grey Goose by name. We don't have Grey Goose here with us. We got McCormick vodka, but that's all right because all vodka tastes the same by law, or by nature, by the design of vodka. It is a neutral grain spirit, so I'm not being too pure here by not using Grey Goose in my Throat Juice, but hey, you know, vodka's vodka. We're going to use 1.5 ounces of this stuff regardless of what brand it is. We'll throw that in our tin. Throat Juice, I'm imagining it to be bloody, so we're going to use some grenadine, mostly for color, but 1.5 ounces of this stuff, you're definitely going to taste it. We're using our homemade grenadine, which is about 1 part pomegranate juice, a few ounces pomegranate molasses, 2 parts sugar. Boil that stuff all together with some orange blossom water. Let that cool for 20 minutes before you bottle it. That's how you get grenadine. That's how you get authentic grenadine. Rose's grenadine is like cherry syrup almost. It's red flavoring. It is not good, not authentic. We don't support it. Next up, passion fruit juice. Why passion fruit juice? Well, you see, Natcha is just a very passionate gal. And I think that, kind of her personality should shine through here in this cocktail. And passion fruit juice is just one of my favorite mixers. We're using Welch's here. You could probably find some better passion fruit juice. Honestly, milking some passion fruits by yourself, will probably yield a better result. But we're just working with what we got. Put 1 ounce of that in there. When you're working with cocktails, definitely squeeze all your citrus fresh. As far as store-bought like passion fruit juice and pomegranate and what have you, that'll be fine for the most part. Next up, we're going to throw in 2 ounces of Red Bull. What do you think Red Bull tastes like? I think Red Bull has a very peachy flavor, and I've had people up in arms whenever I say that, but I think it's true. So, it's got all this stuff in there now, so now you can't even pick out the Red Bull flavor. But I think it's a very peachy flavor. I mean, here, I'll send this, if Thing wants to try it, then I'll set it up here. Typically, you don't want to shake anything with carbonation in it. That's when your shaker likes to kind of blow apart. We're living on the edge, though. I didn't just want to top it off with Red Bull after we shook it, because it's just, that one last ingredient. There's not much in there to begin with, so we'll see what happens. This could very well go terribly for me. Yeah, I told you. It is a peach-flavored energy drink. Yep, definitely came apart on me. We're well shaken. We're going to strain into our glass here. Look at that. That is our throat juice. Well, bam. Tasting notes. Ooh. Grenadine soda. What I've got right now. Also, grenadine soda, not a bad idea. We have our own carbonation machine. We can make that. We should do an episode where we make our own sodas. It'd be cool.
I don't need an episode for that.
You don't even feel like the alcohol in it. There's 1.5 ounces of base spirit in there. It's a dangerous drink, but vodka typically is dangerous in cocktails. Definitely the forward profile is grenadine. You get that passion fruit tang in there, and the Red Bull kind of just slides on through. It is gorgeously red, really. Even with the passion fruit in there, which is very yellow orangey. Still gorgeously red. Whenever I was workshopping this recipe, I only did an ounce of grenadine. I think that was a mistake because it was a lot lighter than this is. This is a very sort of dark, throaty red, but it's kind of what we're looking for here. So, throat juice. Next cocktail. Last cocktail of the night. Not really a cocktail. It's a non-alcoholic drink. It's a mocktail. Yes! This drink is what we're calling a human alcohol martini, going back to the episode On the Run. Jim the Vampire orders, early in the episode, he and Jackie Daytona share. What's up?
That's just juice.
Yeah, it is very juicy. We're talking about the throat juice there. You could suck it like it's Grey Goose, as the lyrics of Throat Juice would imply. So on the club roof. Anyway, they share some human alcohol beer. Now we're gonna make a human alcohol martini, which in the episode it is just implied to be a standard martini. But I like the idea of doing our best to replicate the taste of a martini with non-alcoholic ingredients. So that's what we've done. Technically, orange bitters are alcoholic, but as long as the final product is less than 1% alcohol, it's considered legally non-alcoholic. If you want to replace the orange bitters, which we're just going to be using a dash of the stuff, if you want to replace them, I'm sure you could squeeze an orange in there. You're not going to get the medicinal orange taste of orange bitters in there, but, if you want to do that, you can do that. It'll taste different, though. So.
Orange zest mixed with just regular bitters.
I'm being told, well, that would be alcoholic. Orange zest and bitters, yeah. What am I doing right now with this blue bowl? Well, crazy people we are, to replace the 2 ounces of gin that would go into a martini, we made juniper infused water for this recipe, because gin, the main ingredient of it is juniper. That's the main taste profile that you're going to be getting. So we just boiled some water together with juniper berries to make juniper infused water. It tastes like juniper water. It doesn't really have the burn that gin does, but if it was alcoholic, I could see it tasting like gin. So we'll see. We're going to throw in an ounce of grape juice to replace the vermouth that would go into a martini. Vermouth is a liqueur made from wine, so that is how we're getting grape juice here, if anybody's interested. And looking at this color right now, that is going to absolutely dominate our drink. Yep, all right. Well, we're building this in a mixing glass, by the way. I think this is the first time I've used this glass on this show, so if anyone's curious about what this is, you typically use it for martinis and Negronis. Old fashions, if you make a bunch of them. Like if you're making 2 or 3 at a time, you'd want to build them in this probably. Otherwise, just build those in the glass. I am ordering special ice molds that we'll have for the next episode. Right now, we're still just using this, fridge grade. What is semicircle ice? Crescent moon ice. All right. 1 dash of orange bitters, as is traditional for martinis. And give it a swirl. Strain it. See what it tastes like. What glass are we using? While I do my 36 turns, we're using a absinthe glass, because I am an avid absinthe drinker. I quite enjoy this stuff. One of my favorite spirits, slash, I guess you consider absinthe a liqueur, since it's a spirit with added flavors, but strong enough to be a spirit and a half, if you ask me. I believe that's 36. My count might have been off. I'm a little tipsy now that we've recorded 4 of these, and I had another drink off camera. So, yeah. But let's try, oh yeah, that is, the absinthe glass was perfect for that. 3 ounces. All right, let's commune with God. Yeah. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, the human alcohol martini is a total bust. Okay. It tastes mostly like dirty water The juniper flavor, like, it came through when I was just tasting the... Oh, there's a hair in there. When I was just tasting the water by itself, but I get none of that here. It just tastes like dirty sewer water. Maybe if we let it infuse for a day, then we'd be getting more of that in there. But I mean, I don't really see how... I like, if we let it infuse for a day, it would definitely be a stronger taste. I don't see how it would be more juniper than it is. It would just be louder mud water, which is what we got here. And unfortunately, the grape juice isn't doing a whole lot. I'm gonna add some more orange bitters, which usually I detest this stuff, but anything to take away the taste of juniper water right now would be delicious. Also looks nothing like a martini. I'm sure you realize martini is typically clear. Oh yeah, do 3 dashes of orange bitters. Because then at least it tastes like, a Tums, or some orange medicine. Yeah, but the thing is opting out of this cocktail, and I wonder why. Ah, okay. Well, it kind of sucks to end an episode on a bad drink, but hey, what can you expect from non-alcoholic cocktails anyway? You know what I mean? Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be doing more of these in the future. I've got a bunch of home recipes that are cooked up and ready to go. Look out for in the future. We're probably going to be doing an episode on The Great very soon if you want to catch up on that show. It's been canceled, so all of it is out there for you to see because this is the world that we live in. Watch some What We Do in the Shadows in the meantime. Finish the series. It's an amazing show. If you love vampires, if you love comedy, it's great. Check it out. Don't check out the Human Alcohol Martini, but if you want to, the recipe will be in the description. You guys have a good one. We'll see you in the next time.